Welcome, everybody. I'm here with my best friend in the world, Scott Redler, and today we have a special guest, Jason Krutsky from TrendSpider, and we're here to talk about our favorite topic in the entire universe, which, of course, is. And we are, this is the first time we've done an event with TrendSpider. We see they have a big crowd coming in right now. We're hoping to get like 10,000 people live on this event. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. So, Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. What a busy day. Like all of a sudden, we've had a volatile week. We had the Fed this week. We had a little change of character in the stock market. And then all of a sudden, you walk in this morning and the market's under pressure and you're like, oh, this is a great setup. If you sold earlier in the week, you could buy some things back. The PCE happens. It's light. They start coming after stuff. And if you were active and ready to go, there was a lot of money to be made, today, especially if you reduce risk earlier in the week.
Okay, Jason, how are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. Same feeling as Scott. Pretty not super surprised by the move that we saw Tuesday, Wednesday. Kind of had a feeling that something like that might be coming. Maybe not the severity that it hit at, but really surprised by the move today. This has been a pretty wild day. Really excited to hear Scott's read and kind of talk shop with him.
Okay, awesome. So we do have a big crowd from TrendSpider. So we just want to introduce you guys to Scott. So Scott is the co-founder of T3 Companies, which includes T3 Trading Group, T3 Live. You might have seen him on TV on CNBC, Bloomberg. He's on Fox Business all the time. And he just crossed the 210,000 mark on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of you guys know Scott from Twitter. You've probably seen him on TV. Look, that's a young baby red dog on the bottom right there. Business Insider said Scott is one of the 22 biggest poker players on Wall Street. And if it's in Business Insider, it must be true.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure, of course.
I don't even know how that happened to I have a sophomore in high school, and he's him and his friends love to play poker. And they found that article and they're like, Chase, you didn't tell me your dad is one of the best poker players on Wall Street. He's like, I had no idea he's one of the best poker players on Wall Street. And I'm pretty good. I did an article about just probabilities. I did an article saying like, I hate casinos. I hate gambling. And they're like, wait, you're a stock market participant. You're involved in the markets. What do you mean you hate gambling? I'm like, well, I don't like going into situations where I have no edge. I'm like, the only thing that I feel like you have edge is if you play Texas Hold'em, at least you have the right to like say, hey, I'm in or I'm out. This is a good hand. This is a bad hand. I could match the blind and bet, and there's some strategy. When you go and play roulette, your money's down and you're spinning the wheel. Who wants to do that for a living or consistency? Who can? Even in blackjack, it's like you put your money down before your cards come. So at least in poker, I was like, in poker, it's a little bit like trading. It's very strategic. You have to have patience. You have to wait your turn. You could stay in. You know what a good hand looks like. You know what the probabilities are. So I'm like, I think in poker, it's a much more reliable, not even a tool, just a little bit more similar to trading versus gambling in a casino where you have no edge. I'm like, I hate gambling. I'd rather trade. At least I could pick and choose my hands, and I could pick and choose how much I want to put behind an idea based on the probabilities. I'm like, that's kind of like poker. And then all of a sudden, I'm just as good as Steve Cohen, who owns the Mets. Guy's worth I don't even know how many billions, and I think I'm a better poker player than him according to Wall Street Bets or whatever that is, the Market Watch or in Business Insider.
Yeah, well, again, we can't prove or disprove, but the headline is what it is. So I'm going to believe Scott is one of the 22 biggest poker players on Wall Street, which would make Scott a multi-billionaire if I'm reading it correctly. And you might have guys.
Tell my wife, she might she might be like, where's all the money?
Yeah, Mrs. Redler needs a new kitchen. And yeah, Scott's been on documentaries in China's CCTV2. Also in BBC, Traders Millions by the Minutes. You can find that on YouTube if you want to take a look. Here's Scott teaching in New York City. And so about the chart, so Scott is a TrendSpider machine. I'm guessing he makes at least 10,000 charts a year with TrendSpider. And Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit like broadly about how you use charts in your daily trading?
Oh, well, they give me points of reference and they give me ways to figure out where my risk is defined and what things look like. I'm a pure cocktail napkin technician. I've been doing this for a long time. Um, as we grow up in the business, you have to know a little bit more than just charts, bull flags, bear flags, head and shoulders top, bottom, wedges. You have to know what's driving the tape. You have to know what the narrative is. You have to know what the sentiment is. But all in all, charts is my guideline. And I have lots of different ways that I go about my business and about what I'm doing. And that's a lot of stuff that we're going to go over as we move forward through the slides.
Okay. All right. So Scott, why don't we talk like broadly about why you use trend analysis? Because, traders, they're always talking about the news, the latest headline, and what it means. So how do you incorporate charts into your work while you're hearing all these headlines and these things going on?
Well, I think we've kind of found out that every network has their own bias on what to think about the news and the narrative of the news. So who even listens to the news? Not me. I don't even turn my TV on until about 9 o'clock after I go through all of the headline news, not what people say about the news, and then I figure out what the trend is. Are we above the 8-21 day? Are we in a strong trend? Are they buying bad news? Are they selling good news? How do things feel? So being in a certain trend, there's certain action and there's ways to react to the action. You have to know what the market's hyper focusing on with the news. Like lately, it's been obviously, do we have a hawkish Fed? How many cuts do we have next year? How much are we up going into Christmas and New Year's? And, where are the moving averages? And how do we get involved in a strategic way as we head through, year end? So right now, everyone's kind of hyper focused on rates. They're hyper focused on what the Fed might do next year. They're hyper focused a little bit on, what Trump's gonna do in his new agenda, and is he going to be the old Trump where he does tweets in the middle of the night and messes with every trader, or is he going to maybe be a little bit more grown up? So we're all trying to figure out, how the market's going to react to the new administration, as well as potentially inflation sticking around, and that you needed to know today. That everyone's a little worried more about inflation, that it's being a bit sticky. So when the PCE came out lighter, you had a nice response to that this morning, and especially after a move like we've seen down throughout the course of this week.
Okay, yeah, and I know, Scott, you love to show this chart with all the reasons the world was about to end, going back to like 1970. So I think like long term, our bias should be a little bit positive, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, over the long term, the bull market wins. That's why I tell everyone, if you have kids that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, start a 529 plan. If you worked for someone and you're a trader on the side, make sure you max out your 401k every single month. It'll help you in the long term. And saying that this isn't going to end well isn't a trading plan. If we're in a faulty tape, we're below the moving averages, and we're going lower, that's cool. If we're in a trend that's higher and it's a hot trend and there's momentum and, it's too overheated, well, it could stay overheated as long as it wants until it's not. So I like to use, daily charts. I use weekly charts. I use monthly charts. But when you look at a chart like this, it goes to show you how many times the media said the world would end, and usually it doesn't. So you always want to stick to your long-term macro plans, which is just a little bit different than trading.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get into moving averages. So moving averages are a mainstay in Scott's style. And, if you follow him on Twitter, he's always talking about the 8-21 day and using those to measure the active composure. So Scott, we know you like the 8, the 21 day, the 50 and the 200. Why these?
A lot of people are like, what's the difference between the 8 and the 10? Or what's the difference between the 10 and the 20? Not that much. It's just depending on how active you want to be. If you trade for a living and you're holding multiple positions, you want to do that in a strong market. A strong market is when it's trending above the 8-day moving average or even the 10-day moving average. That means that dips are buyable. That means dips are shallow. It means shorts are trapped. And it means stocks are moving pretty fast. So that's why I love the 8-day. And as an active trader that's in front of their computer all day, you could stay with the 8-day. Someone who doesn't trade for a living, might say, hey, I can't get in and out as fast as you, Red Dog. I just want to be involved in some of the best names out there. So let me go with the 21 day or the 50 day. So the less active you are, the lower moving averages you care about, because it's broader. So if I could sell something when it breaks the 8 day, I'm so fast that I could buy it back and test the 50 day, where someone might not be able to sell the 8 day and test the 50 day, get out at the 8 day, goes to the 21 day, and then it makes new highs. So it's a barometer of how active you are. And usually the healthiest stocks, as well as the strongest trends, are above the 8 and 21 days. So that's when I want to have the most risk on.
Okay. So I think that's a good time to get into. So Scott, you have two different trading approaches. The first is the portfolio approach. So could you talk about a little bit what this means?
It just means that, I've been doing this for 30 years. So I have an active account, a swing account, a box account, and a option account. So I try and treat myself like a little portfolio manager. So when the market's trending well, I want to have risk on. I want to use my buying power. So if we're above the 8 and 21 day and we're trending like we were pretty much from September 11th on that washout trade all the way up to almost Wednesday, I want to be in multiple positions. I want to be buying things that are the strongest, and I want to be using a tier system to net money and let some some positions ride. Let the stock market actually make me money versus just day trading. So above the 8 and 21 day in the S&P is a way that I want to be in the tape. I want to have risk on. I want to buy dips. I want to trade through price points. I want to sell into strength or even extended strength and manage it instead of just trying to day trade when things are going lower and you don't want to have risk on because there's no need. So I'm in a portfolio approach usually when the S&P, the Qs, I'm sorry, there might be a fire out here. You hear those fire engines? Above the 8 and 21 day moving average. So if you use the 8 and 21 day moving average, it helps you drown out the noise of the media as well as what everyone is obsessing about, because chances are usually when they're obsessing about things, it's just to sell page views and advertising, and it doesn't help you as a trader.
Okay, so Scott, we pulled up just a simple chart of the SPX with the moving averages on the screen. So can you talk a little bit about like what you saw after the election? Because we had that big gap up and people were asking, is this it? So how do you break down a situation like this?
Well, when you have a binary event like an election, it's hard to be in crazy equity positions. So usually you go with options. So when I was on Fox Business the day of the election, and a lot of my friends were like, Trump's going to win with the landslide. I'm like, hey, if Trump wins, it's probably good for Bitcoin, good for Tesla. And I don't understand DJT, so I'm not going to play it. So we also had IWM. So I had a few different option trades on. So if I'm right, I make a lot of money. If I'm wrong, risk is premium paid. So if you look at this chart, you'll see that there's a big gap up post-election. He had some follow through. Then we came back when he started to nominate his board members, and then we held the 8 and 21 day. And from there, which was what was that? That was pretty, it was mid-November or early to mid-November. You then held it, and then we had a nice sequence all the way up basically until Wednesday, where things got a little more volatile.
Okay, so let's talk about the tactical approach. So this is when, Scott, when you start to take notice and raise the risk flag a little bit. So can you talk a little bit about when you move into a tactical approach?
Right, like on Wednesday, I sold a lot of my positions. We broke 602 in the SPYs, and that broke below the 8 and 21 day. And once you break the 8 and 21 day, you have no idea what's going to happen next. You could test the 50 day, the 100 day, the 200 day. I'd rather be out of the way and revisit versus go hold my nose and go underwater. There's no need for that as a trader. You could always have control. So when I get in tactical approach, I get in a lot of cash, a lot less positions. Like today, I came in with nothing. I had no positions besides some leftover options. And when the S&P futures were down 50, 60 handles this morning, I was feeling great. I was able to buy things versus lows, buy things when they were claimed lows from the prior day to show that, the prior day isn't as in control as this day, and made some pretty good money. So when volatility strikes and you're not sure what's next and you're looking for market discovery, I'd rather be more of a day trading approach. And that usually happens when the S&P is below the 21 day, which it broke on Wednesday. And now we're trying to figure out what's next. I don't need to sit in things and let the market, whip me around figuring out what's next. I could be on the sideline, pick and choose my spots better from an even kill approach.
Okay. Okay. So Jason, I'm gonna pull up your platform. So like when we want to know exactly when this happens, how do we use TrendSpider to get that alert in real time?
Yeah, for sure. So there are a couple of different ways that you can utilize or you can get that alert. First and foremost, I know you guys are talking about SPX. I want to be clear, you cannot get alerts on index, like on SPX. But so I've just got SPY up here on my chart.
By the way, Jason, I trade a lot of spies all the time. So does the community. So I'm sure they could benefit
Yeah.
from this.
Perfect. Yeah. So very, very simply, the most fluid way is just simple right click on whichever moving average you want to get the alert on and choose create alert. You can choose different types of triggers. So depending on the specific trigger that you want, you could pick the one. In this particular case, we're talking specifically about a breakthrough, so it makes sense just to choose breakthrough. You don't really want to be alerted if it bounces or if it only touches. You want that breakthrough. This sensitivity feature allows you to define like an area around the indicator that you want to be alerted on. Again, with a breakthrough, generally I'm going to have sensitivity turned off because I want it breaking through that particular moving average. But in the case of a touch or a bounce, maybe you want to have sensitivity loosened up a little bit. Pick your confirmation candle down to the 10-minute time frame on the daily chart here. So, you know, if it breaks through 10 minutes pass, you're going to get the alert. And then choose your expiration, how long you want that alert to live in your system, up to about 100 days, depending on the plan that you have. And then the amount of triggers. So up to 20 triggers. So essentially what this means is over the next 65 days, in the next 20 times price breaks through that 21 EMA, I'm going to get an alert to let me know, a unique alert every single time that happens over the next 65 days, up to 20 unique triggers. So that would be kind of like the easiest, most efficient way you can create alerts like that on both of those moving averages just by right clicking on them. You can also utilize multi-factor alerts. So if you wanted to define not just the fact that price broke through a moving average, but maybe you wanted to also say it did so on, you know, 2x average volume on a lower time frame, and you wanted to add just whatever specifics you wanted to add, whether it be price conditions or indicator conditions, and you wanted to utilize multiple timeframes within those conditions, you would want to use a multi-factor alert. And you can kind of script multi-factor alerts a number of ways. You can do them manually through like drop-down menus, but I've been getting really keen on our human language condition writing because simply it just makes the process a little bit easier. Like I can say, you know, EMA 21 price broke through and apply. And what it's going to do is it's going to just create that condition for me. I don't have to know how to script the condition. It just does it. So I can say that. I can say specifically, you know, this is me going through the manual process. So I just want to like show that too. I can define like where price is relative, because, you know, if it breaks through, you're not defining, is it breaking through to the upside or breaking through to the downside? So you might then want to say price close less than the indicator, you know, EMA or whatever it might be. So two ways to get those alerts. There's even a third way. Like in theory, you could create a strategy that gets out on a 21 break or a 8 EMA break or whatever, and then set up that strategy as a trading bot so that you can then get signals for all of your entry and exits. But since we're just talking about alerts, we'll just stick to just the alert explanation.
Yeah, I kind of feel like an idiot because I've been using TrendSpider for years. I didn't know I could right click and set up alerts. I feel like I should have known that a long time ago. Okay, all right. Thank you, Jason. Okay, Scott. So we're going to kind of get into the type of stocks you liked, and we're going to get into some of the recent trades. If you guys follow Scott, you know you probably heard about the Trot and, you know, Santa Claus's rush to 100K, and Tesla was also a big winner for Scott into and after the election. So Scott, generally speaking, when you're looking for like long swing ideas, like what are you looking for?
I'm looking for stocks that have strong relative strength, that if all of a sudden the S&P holds a 50-day maybe a stock is above the 8-day and then it has a nice price pattern. It's been going there for 6 months or so, and then starts to go and is a leader of the tape. And then when the market's down a little bit, it's not down much. If it's not, the market's down a lot, it's not down much. And when the market goes, it's up a lot. So I typically look for great chart patterns that are tight, that are showing relative strength. And then when the market starts to move, those are the ones I try and, gear towards. And if there's a narrative around it, like there kind of was with Tesla and Bitcoin, if Trump won the presidency, then you get an added boost. And that's when you should probably really get bigger and make a lot of money. So let's go to some of those charts.
Okay. All right. So when we're talking about like tight charts. Does Tesla qualify? Because specifically, we had that taxi event, and then it boomed into earnings. Everybody hated the stock into earnings. Does this qualify as one of these tight patterns you like?
Well, Tesla was a laggard for a while, and I avoided it for a while when we were trading other leaders, and then once it ignited, like if you look at the setting into the earnings report and post earnings report, it finally woke up. So that got me more in tune with what Tesla was doing, because it moved from my C or B list to my A list. So Tesla was great, back above the moving average after the RoboCop event, RoboTaxi, because they thought maybe it was priced in. So the bottom line is, it had a great sequence, and then into the election, I was like, you know what, if Trump wins, Elon's been his number one, not say cheerleader, but cheerleader. And chances are Tesla will have a little bit of a halo. So I took options into the binary event with my option account. And then once you had the gap up, which you have here on the gap election, then I was able to buy the stock and trade the sequence. And it was above the 8-day. It was above the 21-day. It made higher highs. It made higher lows. And it was showing relative strength to the entire tape. So it was a fantastic swing trade. All the way up until about Tuesday, I think I said, I'm selling calls. I'm buying the TSLAQ. And that was before, if you look to the right side of the chart, you had a little bit of a red dog reversal sell, as it hit 488. And that was my out. I did buy some Tesla back today. It's not leading the tape. It put in a small little low. And if you sold 475, why can't you buy, 420s? And I actually did a red dog reversal today. If you look at the chart, it went below 420, came back above it. And that's a pattern that I'm sure TrendSpider could help identify for you. If you're looking for a red dog reversals, long or short, they could definitely do it. I'm probably going to start using them myself.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Bitcoin turkey trot. So this is one of Scott's signature calls of 2024, October 11th. He started hounding me over text. He's like, we need a meme for the Bitcoin turkey trot. So if you Google Bitcoin turkey trot, you'll see Scott. So Scott, what made you say this is the season for Bitcoin?
Well, first, the chart was great. The chart on the weekly was going sideways for 7-8 months and consolidated a huge move. And then I do remember every Thanksgiving, my mom, my mother-in-law, everyone is like, oh my God, Thanksgiving, did you hear about Bitcoin? What's going on with crypto? Da, 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 da. The kids, the nieces, the nephews. So I'm like, you know what? The chart looks really good. I'm like, let's start a turkey trot, because I do a turkey trot every year on Thanksgiving where I run a 5K with my son. If you Google Chase Redler, he actually has the world record as an 8-year-old for a 5K. So anyway, with that being said, I'm like, let's get involved now at 62,000 before we're sitting at the Thanksgiving table and everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin's awesome. How do I do this? And I actually said 85,000. Now I think that was my goal. What was my, I don't remember my exact target. And it went to like almost like 90 something thousand prior to Thanksgiving. And then since it got there, everyone's like, well, what about Santa Claus? If it's there now, I'm like, I probably gets to 100,000. Like, why wouldn't, Bitcoin get to 100,000 if it's at 86? Everyone in the world's talking about it, and who's going to sell it into year end, blah, blah, blah. And PS, it went to 108. You can see by that chart, it was above the 8 and 21 day the entire time. You could use the tier system. You could have bought Bitcoin miners sometimes. You could have bought IBIT. I focused on the IBIT. And then you had recently, earlier in the week, it hit 108,000 and it seemed a little excitable. And then risk happened and you were able to reduce, into that move. I did come out with another meme saying 118,000 when it got over 100. But that was just like a thought. You know, you never know where it's going to go. Same way when it was at 62, I said 85. I didn't know it was going to go to 90 something. And then once it was at 90 something and proved to be that strong, I'm like, now it can go to 100 something. And at this point, 108,000 is the high. You have a low that was put in this morning, and now we'll see how market discovery happens. So don't trust people who just come out with these crazy, targets. I don't do it for headline purposes. I do it. It's usually calculated with Fibonacci extensions and whatnot, and this and that. But at this point, Bitcoin, if I were to make more of, a week ago, I said Bitcoin's going to, I would say, I think 108,000 is probably going to be the high of the year, but probably not the high of next year. And those are just some small thoughts. Jason, you're smirking. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all. I can't hear Michael, though. Michael was saying something. I think you're muted.
Okay,
Mike.
Yeah. So I accidentally cut Scott. So Scott, you think 108 is the high for this year?
I would say I think so, yeah.
Okay, but you think it can go higher next year?
I do.
Okay, Jason, sorry for cutting you off. What were you saying?
No, I'm basically completely agreeing with Scott. I think
really?
I think highs.
Michael never really completely agree. He agrees a little bit.
I think probably highs in. Maybe we go back and test it, get pretty close, but I think quite higher next year for sure.
Okay. Okay. So, Jason, we're going to ask you to pull up your screens again. So we know that Scott loves these stocks that gap up and holds those gaps, and we didn't think it was yeah. So obviously we would like easier ways of finding these rather than going through the earnings list every day and the gaps list and trying to find stuff that actually gaps up and holds those gaps, because that's been a consistent moneymaker for Scott and his community. So we would love you to show us like how to do some of this stuff in an automated way.
Yeah. So, working with you guys, we have developed a handful of scanners specifically for different setups that Scott's looking for. We've got the gaps list scan. And this one particularly, Scott, if you want to kind of speak to this, it's pretty cut and dry, pretty much what you kind of talked about, what you're looking for, price above those key moving averages. You've got a couple of really basic things in here, just minimum price conditions, minimum market cap conditions, minimum volume, average volume conditions. And then looking for that gap, and also a condition in here that says that earnings are not within the next, not within the next 30 days. As long as earnings are not within the next 30 days, we're good to go. And
why 30 days?
Oh, we just put that in because, Scott, we know you don't like to take stocks into earnings.
Right. No, so, 30 days is a long time. Is because maybe they could pre-announce, and then if you're sitting on something and it pre-announces, because usually when the quarter's over, a company has about 30 days to pre-announce whether or not, it's not going to be what people think or not.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about this is you can adjust this to whatever you want, right? This is a very basic kind of template that we have built that can be shared to any T3 traders that are also TrendSpider traders. Anybody who is a TrendSpider trader who's interested to know more about you, Scott, and your style of trading, they can gain access to any of these scans just by requesting it via our customer support channel. But yeah, that's what this scan looks for. It just looks for those names that have gapped up recently and are holding that gap. So you got CN, you've got ALK, SHO, TIVA, PSTG. Not many names on this list, but man, they look darn good, don't they? Like, especially relative to what the market's been doing over the past 3 days. Yeah.
Wow, that's a strong list. That fits a lot of parameters. It's big gap up, didn't fill the gap. The market weakness didn't have the short sellers win. So those should be things that you turn to when the market gains some traction, which it looks like it is. Like the market repaired a lot today, in my humble opinion. I didn't think that we were going to have this type of move up. I guess the same way I didn't think we'd have that kind of move down, but you never know.
Right.
But at this point, though, that's a powerful indicator. When you have a big pro gap for news, for earnings, for an event, and they can't fill that because there's a lot of people caught short and a lot of people want to buy it lower. And if they can't get it lower, typically means it's going higher.
Yeah, another cool piece of functionality that we launched relatively recently is something that we call scheduled scanning. And so the purpose is twofold of this particular tool. The first is scheduled scanning allows us to just simply set our scans on a schedule to run automatically for us every single day of the week, and then have those results delivered to our email inbox instead of getting up early in the morning, running your scans, writing down the names that are key, or building custom watch lists or whatever. This is just a quick and easy way to get those conditions sent to you every single day. It just kind of removes that however much time you spend scanning, whether it's pre-market or after hours or whatever, get those conditions sent right to you. And I'll show you very quickly. I'm going to share this tab so you can see it. This is an example of what you'll see when you schedule a scan. And what's cool about this is not only am I getting the names delivered to me, but I'm also very quickly able to analyze what names are meeting the criteria right now, what names are new to the list, what names are no longer on the list that were on the list before. So that's the thing about when you run a scan, you're only seeing what is happening right now, and you kind of lose sight of, well, what was happening yesterday, right? This allows you to see all of that in one. So this is a different scan. This is your Redler runners scan, or Redler's runners scan, but it showcases the same idea, right? You've got a list of symbols that are all meeting the criteria of the scan. The ones that are in blue are new names to the list. So they weren't meeting the criteria yesterday. They are meeting the criteria now. So those are potentially new names that you would want to immediately check out and see, well, why are they meeting the criteria right now? You also are very quickly able to see which names are not meeting the criteria anymore, what names fell off the list that were on it yesterday. So it's just a quick and simple way to get a bunch of information very, very quickly.
Very cool. Okay, guys, so we're up to, looks like we have 6,900 people watching live. So thank you to everybody for joining.
A very
us.
mimetic number.
Yes. Well, I have no idea what you mean by that, Jason. So let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right, Scott, let's talk a little bit about Reddit, because this is a name you played, again, this had that big, giant, beautiful move after earnings. There was insider selling you. So could you talk a little bit about how you played Reddit?
Reddit was one of our power plays. It was one of those names that, came public when no stocks were coming public. So that was on my radar, right? Since 2021, there was a very limited amount of stocks coming public. So if you came public, you had a lot of exciting things going. And then it just wound up fitting all of my parameters. It was above the 8-21 day, dips were bought fast. You were making higher highs and higher lows, and it was just a great trade. You could have went about it a lot of different ways. Every time news came out that like an insider was selling, okay, yeah, it's a new issue from not even 2 years ago or so. Of course, insiders are going to sell and take a little bit off the table, because look at you. They don't want to be Jeff Bezos and leaning on a stock like Amazon, with 20% of a float, a decade later. So every time it came out that there was an insider selling and the media got all upset, it was wound up being a good buying opportunity. And P.S. the stock was a great trending trade. We bought dips, we added to it, we sold higher, and even now, Reddit right now today is up 8. It's at 171. So you had the high of 180. It's if you put up the real live chart, it's above the 8-21 day. There's not a lot of charts above it, so it's a strong trend, and chances are it's going to stay strong into next year. So that should be on everybody's go-to list.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's talk about Carvana. So this is one of the all-time great short squeezes. Every time they report earnings, it goes up like 50%.
Yeah.
So Scott, why are people obsessed with shorting things that go up?
Because they think it's not going to end well. I don't know. It's just weird, Plus, the stock was almost a bankruptcy, so I get it. There were a lot of people trapped before all of the Reddit crowd got behind this, or the Wall Street bets, whatever you want to call it. But again, I did not really trade this name a lot, so I can't really talk so responsibly about it. But all I know is a lot of people always tried to get me in it. And if you look at the chart here, it follows all the parameters. It's been above the 8-21 day. Dips have been viable, and they give you no really reasons to be short this stock, except if you had an opinion. And if you have an opinion, that's how you get put out of business, especially if the price action goes against your opinion.
Okay, well, let's talk about gold. So gold was a monster winner this year. Since the election, it's fallen off. So could you talk a little bit about what you've been doing with gold this year?
Well, gold, I think, was a power play earlier in the year, and then it was above the 821 day, and there was a great, great narrative around it, and then all of a sudden got a little faulty. And if you look at the chart here, you just want to put technicals on top. It broke the 8-day, on the election, and then it broke below the low of the 8-day a bunch of days later in November, and then the 821 day. So if you sold it into strength or you sold it when it was breaking down, you were able to get out of the way. I think gold should be part of your asset allocation plan. I think Bitcoin should be a part of your asset allocation plan if you have one. If you have that pie chart in a 401k and your X% equities, X% bonds, I would do, a certain percentage of gold and Bitcoin, longer term. But if you trade for a living and actively like I do, even with gold, just like crypto, which is a little obviously hyper fast compared to gold, using the 821 day will always keep you on the right side of that trade, because there are a lot of gold bugs out there that have opinions on gold and they always think it's going up, and it doesn't always go up. So if you trade for a living and you always think it's going to go up, it could wind up going against your P&L. And if you look at this chart, there's been a time and a place to get in gold. When it's above the 821 day, you want to be in it. When it has a great tight chart pattern expanding on volume, you want to add to it. And when it's on the defense, you want to take a step back and then figure out what's next. And I haven't really been that active in gold lately. It hasn't been where the action is. So we're
going to talk about a sector where there's lots of strong opinions and where the action definitely has not been, and that is our friend MSOS. It's down it's down 47%. I am down a bunch of money. I bought some calls like an idiot somewhere because Scott, this is what I said. I said it can't get any worse than this. So what do you think of
the reverse stock split, and then you get taken down again?
Famous
which I
last
hate
words.
Reverse stock splits. It's friggin' you know what? I lost a lot of money in this thing too. It feels like the headlines were that cannabis and it's going to go from medicinal to recreational, and that it's going to go from 3 states to 50 states. We saw the sector hot like 4 or 5 years ago, and since then it's been a horrendous trend. Even though we've dissected really good trades during the January effect in January, February, it's still been a disaster. And if you look at the chart of the MSOS, it looked like there was going to be a trade there for the election, that maybe they would get the safe banking bill done, and it gapped up, and then it broke the moving averages around 7, and it got cut in half for the 17,000th time in the past 3 years. So hopefully you're out of the way. I've tried it a bunch of times. I've tried it Tilray calls. I've made a lot of donations. I should have made donations to charity instead of this sector. But at some point, when they do a safe banking bill, I do think the sector is going to get better. They're going to be able to transfer money across state lines. They'll get rid of some of the under the table individuals out there, and there'll be a viable, investable sector. But it just hasn't happened yet. And every time it tries, it's like the boy who cried wolf. But if you use the moving averages, it kept you, at least from getting really hurt. But it's always easy to have some paper cuts when all this kind of stuff happens.
Okay, so we have about we're crossing 7,500 people live right now. Say hi in the audience if you're watching out there on Twitter or YouTube. Tell us where in the world you're watching from. I know we have our friend Tony here. I'm sure Itz is in the crowd, but let us know in the chat where you are listening from. Oh, so Jason, so we also set up a scan to find sort of these messes. So we're going to pull up your screen so you could show us how to use TrendSpider to sort of screen for these trouble spots. And I will, it's of course is in Ridgefield. We have Florida, but yeah, guys, type in where you are from while Jason shows us how to do this in TrendSpider.
Yeah. So same idea, just in reverse, right? Like all of the things that we were looking for on that gaps list, minus the gap part, but in reverse. So price below those key moving averages, relative performance, we define as below 50. So these names are in the lower 50th percentile of price performance relative to the S&P 500 here. Again, all that same stuff, the volume, market cap, minimum price conditions, and basically you're just getting back an absolutely massive list of names. So, like one way that I think about utilizing these things is even just to gauge how many names are showing up here versus how many names are showing up there,
It's kind of like what happened with the market before the market headed lower. Everyone's like, did you see the AD lines, Red Dog? They're disgusting. They're deteriorating. I'm like, well, I'm not in those. I'm in Bitcoin. I'm in Tesla. This and that. Like, well, you should notice that there are more names breaking down than up. So that helped connect the dots that on Wednesday when he became hawkish and we broke that upper level, you kind of knew that you could have been out of the way, et cetera, et cetera. So having a scanner like this, Jason, where it's telling you that there's more things that fit this criteria than strong near the highs of the year that are above the 821 day, it kind of tells you probably the health of the overall tape.
Right. Yeah. Dramatically more. And you can do things like bringing up your scanners over here. So like if you wanted to be able to kind of make that measure relative, you can come into your like watch list. And so here's my gaps list. I could add another one over here on the left-hand side and say, grab this other one. We'll use the Redler's runners here. So I've got my Redler's runners list, I've got my gaps list, and I've got now my relative weakness list. And it's just, blaringly obvious which one is the top dog as far as how many names are there. And just again, to everybody that's tuned in, if you are interested in taking advantage or getting these scans yourself, on TrendSpider, we make it super easy to share scanners of all different kinds. We're happy to share these scans that we've built with Scott and his team with any TrendSpider traders that are interested in them. If you're not yet a TrendSpider trader, if you're interested in taking advantage of the deal that we have going on right now, you can get all of these scans as well. Just have to reach out to our customer support team to request them.
Okay, guys, we're going to get into Q&A in just a minute, but if you want to save on TrendSpider, they have amazing holiday deals. You can save up to 71%. These are the same the charts that Scott uses. It's fast, it's simple, it's super powerful. Their scanner is amazing. I've used like 30 different scanners. TrendSpider has more features than you could possibly imagine. You can backtest ideas, you can train AI models, tons of other stuff. If you go to t3live.com/TS, that's actually a forwarding link. So that's going to take you to TrendSpider if you go to t3live.com/TS. And if you have questions, put them down in the chat below. Again, any questions, put them down in the chat below. Looks like we're going to cross 8,000 people watching pretty soon. And if you guys want to get Scott's free newsletter, go to t3live.com/DB. You can get it Monday morning. He's going to be covering Tesla, Bitcoin, all the hot stuff on Monday morning, t3live.com/DB. And so put your questions down in the chat. We have Scott for a few more minutes before he has that look in his eye. I can tell he's itching to trade the close.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm watching 1,000 things here. That's what I do every day. I have my swing account, my active account, my option account. So I'm here with you all, but I'm also watching my options, my positions, and I'm trying to figure out, just the same way all you are how to make money, how to navigate the tape. And I get paid quarterly for a living, and it's December 20th, and I'm trying to stack them, pack them, and rack them myself. Jason, you know what movie that's from?
I do not.
Stack them, pack them, and rack them. Anybody? Let's see if get on the comments.
Like Goodfellas?
Stack them? No,
I don't know.
That's like Fugazi. Hey, what's a Fugazi? That's Goodfellas. That's not that. I'm telling you, go to the comments.
You know what, Scott? I cheated. I Googled it because
Die Hard 2.
Yeah, Die Hard 2, let's
bring our birds home.
And Die Hard 2 is a Christmas movie like Die Hard 1.
That's true. It is. So basically, when they finally blew up the terrorists, it made a landing, like, the runway lit up. And then now the planes were able to fly down because the runway was on fire. And the guy from the quality control is like, stack them, pack them, and rack them, and bring our birds home. I don't know why I remember that. I was like 14 years old or something watching that maybe 30 times, besides Rocky 4 and 3 and 2.
I remember the best part of Die Hard 2 is like the naked guy in his hotel room practicing his karate before he takes over the airport. Okay, all right, Scott, we have a question from our friend Triple Standard. What assets does Mr. Redler like to trade? Mr. Redler, very respectful. So what do you like to trade, Scott?
Whatever's above the 821 day that acts well, that I could buy and add to on dips and takes out highs and makes higher highs. Those are the things I like to trade that use technicals.
Okay, Scott, how do you feel about Trading Places? Tony's pointing out it's a great Christmas movie.
I love it. I love Eddie Murphy. I like Boomerang. I like You know, I love Trading Places. Everyone should watch it. I watched it actually the other day for like 20 minutes with Chase, but he couldn't get into it. You have to watch the whole thing. You know, it's a little slow. You watch movies from the past compared to the way movies are made now. They're so slow that kids these days they just can't watch them because it feels like you're watching like one. Remember when they used to make movies where they would flip, you know, like cards and they would create a movie like that's almost like watching an 80s movie now. You know, the technology and how it was done, but I could watch them 100 times. Just kids, like Chase watches on his phone. He'll be watching a football game. He'll watch another game on his phone, and then he'll have red zone over there. I'm like, I can't be in this room.
Yeah, you know what, Scott? It's interesting you say that about movies because it's weird that they have so much like short-term flashy crap in them, but they're so much longer. They're like every movie's like 2.5 hours. Like, you know how long Rocky 4 was? 1 hour and 31 minutes.
Best movie in America.
Yeah, it might not be the best movie in America, but it's the most American movie ever made.
There you go. If I could change and you could change, everyone could change. Think how relevant he is right now with what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia.
And just like that, communism died.
And
it was because of Rocky. And Rambo 3. Rambo 3 also played a role, but it was primarily Rocky 4.
Oh yeah, why do you think we left Afghanistan? You know what he did there, right? Anyway,
yeah, we're gonna have to do a whole.
Move on from Rocky and Rambo. You want to talk about over the top? We could do that.
Oh my god!
How about a Tulsa King? We could go to Tulsa King. That's pretty good.
I saw Over the Top. I still remember my dad taking me to see Over the Top, and I thought it was simply an amazing, amazing movie.
Do you want to play the theme song from there? The miles go by like water.
You guys have fun every day, don't you?
We could talk about Mister up 33 points. It did a red dog reversal today. Nice. IBIT did it right. There were a lot of stocks that did red dog reversals. The stupid thing about this market, you want me to tell you, Jason, is that why did the spiders, without a 20-cent pull-in, have to go from 581 to 595.75? It's like they want to take you to the extreme. The same thing they did on Wednesday. They took the market from 602 without one breath down to 585. That's how good these computers are, and that's how alert you guys have to be at home, that if you try a level that's in no man's land, you're going to get blown out of the water. Like if you tried shorting today, and I was shorting some premium besides being long, I felt like we were going back to 600. And now here we are. The market can't even bounce. We're probably going to close at 590 from 985, right in the middle of the range. But they had to do it all in the first 3 hours. So people sometimes say, Red Dog, how did the market change? Well, the market change is that sometimes computers are relentless, the programs are relentless, and if you're wrong, you better make sure you're wrong in a spot that you could trade yourself around, because if you're in a no man's land spot, you're in trouble. Meaning if you short too early, you're in trouble. You buy too early, you're in trouble. And even if sometimes you pick the best spots, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Red
Dog ran for the day.
What are your thoughts going into next week? Obviously, we got Christmas on Wednesday. It's probably going to be a relatively slower week. Are you thinking bottoms in and we're going sideways, or you think maybe like at least a retest of the lows, maybe swipe the lows? Where's your head at?
I don't know. I feel like today was a pretty, what's the word? Potent low. Like we were down 60 handles. PC came out. They trapped some shorts. They didn't let anybody in. I would say there's a high probability that the pre-market low will not be violated next week. Unless something crazy happens, and we'll be somewhere within this range between 580.91 is the low of on the tape versus the pre-market low, and 595. I could just see us being in this range between, that and perhaps if they want to get things going, maybe it can get back up towards 598 to 602. But do I think we're making new highs next week in the market? No.
No chance.
It's more of probably a high probability that we make a lower low than today. But with the holiday next week, I don't see why that would really happen unless, all of a sudden they really shut down the government on Monday and do something like that.
Right. Right on. Just curious.
I like it. Good question.
Okay, guys. All right. I think this is a good note to end on. Let us know in the chat, what did you think of this little shindig? We have some more parties lined up for the future. We love T3 Live loves TrendSpider. We hope TrendSpider loves T3. And again, guys, if you could save up to 71% on TrendSpider if you go to t3live.com/TS, which also stands for tight sneakers, I believe.
And if you,
joke, I had a high school teacher that used to make that joke like all the time.
Yes, tight sneakers. I have a wide foot, so I can't wear tight sneakers.
I have that same issue, Scott. t3live.com/TS. You could save huge on TrendSpider. And if you want Scott's free newsletter Monday morning with NVIDIA, Tesla, Bitcoin, all the fun stuff covered, t3live.com/DB. Again, absolutely free. Scott, we need, I'm not going to let you leave. We need one more piece of wisdom from you. What do people need to know in the market in the next 36 minutes?
Just don't have opinions. Try and be prepared as much as possible. Try and have your mind right so you could execute on the X's and O's. A lot of people like Red Dog, you have like this Red Dog mindset that you're ready for any tape. I'm like, well, I really work on it. I'm up at 4:45 in the morning. I'm in my sauna for 20 minutes, sweating it out. I go in an ice barrel every day, no matter whether it's 27 degrees or 60 degrees. And if it's cold, I'm like, let's get in there. It's not something I want to do, but we do it anyway. So you're training your brain for go time. So when things trigger during the day, you're not second guessing yourself. You're making executions and you're going with it. So as long as you're prepared mentally, you can handle any market, whether it's up, down, sideways. You're not over trading, you're not under trading, you're not chasing things. And when your inner voice tells you to do something, if you train your brain and it's strong enough for go time, you're going to pull the trigger instead of looking back and say, well, I thought it was going to happen, but I just didn't do it. You know what? If grandma had balls, she'd be grandpa. Or the king had, and I can't say that. Something like that. All I'm saying is, do what you got to do to work on yourself and become the best version of yourself. And chances are the performance will follow. It's not just the X's and the O's. A bull flag, you want to Google a bull flag, you want to Google a head and shoulders top, you want to Google, they're all evergreen stuff. And they all make sense and they're all ways to make money. But it's how you think about it, how you go approach it, and how you handle yourself is whether or not you're going to be in this market for 6 months, 2 years, or 30. A bad day is a bad day. You need to know how to work it off. A great day, you're not going out and getting drunk and being hungover tomorrow because then you're going to lose it. So it's even kill. If you could stay even kill and find out what makes you happy, chances are you could do this for a long time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Scott. And Jason, if people need to get in touch with TrendSpider to find these scans or anything, what exactly should they do? Is there a URL they can go to? Like, if they want to get in touch, what should they do?
Yeah, so on our trend, if you just go to trendspider.com, down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a little chat icon. Feel free to click on that and just say, I was watching the live stream. I want to get my hands on Scott's scans. And a member of our support team will be happy to send those along to you. You can also access that, right there. And then you can also access that in the platform via the contact us button, which is bottom right hand corner, little orange button there in the platform. So yeah, just reach out to the team. They will hook you up with those scans and you can upload them into your account and start seeing the markets the way that Scott is every morning.
Jason, do you have a Red Dog reversal scanner?
I have one tentatively built for you because I figured you'd want one, but it's not launched yet. We need your final mark of approval on it, but yeah, it's ready.
All right, cool. A lot of people like Red Dog. Why don't you use a Red Dog reversal scanner? Because, the way I trade is I have a go-to list of my 40 names. And when things in my go-to list qualify for certain criteria that I like to trade, I go with them. I'm not in, this is not the way I do it. Some guys will trade something that trades 200% of the average volume in the first 15 minutes. They don't care the name, or there's a Red Dog reversal with stock ABC. They'll just buy it and follow the strategy and put a buy in at the prior low, put a stop in, and they don't care. It's automated. I'm more of like a ham and egger. Like I like my keyboard and I like to do it myself, but the younger generation loves things done for them. I get it. And a Red Dog reversal is defined risk, and it could spit out a lot of ways. If I had a scanner, it's calculated. That's what you want as a trader. You want a calculated strategy that your risk is defined and have a better than average chance of making money. And if there's a scanner that could do it for you or a black box, great. I tend to use my eyeballs in my morning prep. But chances are, when you have that ready, Jason, I might have to use it myself.
Yeah, I mean, there's very, very few things that our scanner can't do. It's hit me with whatever you're interested in uncovering across the market, and I'm more than happy to whip things up for you. So I'll get that idea over to your team, and we'll continue trying to grow the list of Redler scans here, and we'll keep sharing them with anybody who wants them.
By the way, who's Redler?
Some guy. I don't know.
You mean Red Dog?
Yeah, we need to change.
Like, hey, Scott. I'm like, Scott. I'm like, where'd Scott come from?
We need to change all of the titles to Red Dog, don't we? Not Redler.
It's all right.
Let's
let
do
it
that.
go.
We'll do that. We can do that. It's easy enough.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate you. All right, how are we doing, Mikey? I got to trade the close. It's 3:30. What else we got to do here?
We just gotta
sign off.
We just gotta say
play
goodbye.
A song? Can we play like a good song for like the holiday season or something?
All right. I know Scott's about to aggravate about 8,000 people. So Scott, just do what you're gonna do. I know what Scott's gonna do. He's gonna.
What song? No, what song am I gonna play?
Because it doesn't matter, because you're gonna say the name of that person that activates the devices in everybody's house at the same time.
No, since we're doing I want to hear Jason. If you were to give a song recommendation, I'm putting you on the spot. Let's get a song to end this webinar.
I mean, it's Christmas time, man. So maybe something Christmas fun, rocking around the Christmas tree or something like that. That was always my favorite Christmas song.
All right, hey Alexa, play "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree."
Now the complaints are about to file in because everybody's devices just went on. Thank you, Scott.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party.
There you go.
It's Friday, right? Good choice, Jason. I like it.
There you go.
Okay. All right, Scott, you're going to go back to trade the close? All right. Well done. Okay, everybody. Thanks for coming on. We had a great time. Jason, thanks for joining us. We're going to do this again, so make sure you subscribe to all our accounts on Twitter and YouTube, all that stuff. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Cheers, guys. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays.